Welcome to part 2 of the videos that I made that actually inspired the creation of this new YouTube channel. In this video I talk about why I left, why I took the family out of South Africa, my flying, my love of flying, the fact that I would love to get back into it, and the Troopcarrier that I built in South Africa, which really was the start of the fact that I put it on YouTube and I had so many views. I realized that there was something going on here that I didn't know about, that people just really wanted to see what I was doing with my four-wheel drive trucks. I then talk about England, how difficult it was to get into England, how difficult life was in England, but what was good about England. And of course, the move to Australia. Why that? I also talk a little bit about the sponsorships and the way forward with my channel as it is now. Following morning, I was thinking last night about what I'd actually presented to camera, which I must tell you was just completely off the cuff. It was literally, I was working in the garage and I just, I'll have something to say, I suppose. I just brought the camera in. And I think I left out quite a bit. I really like Coke. I don't drink a lot, I don't smoke. I used to smoke. I smoked for 10 years, but I would buy a packet every Friday. And when the packet was gone, I wouldn't buy another packet until Friday. I did that for 10 years. And eventually gave up in about 93, March 93 in fact, I know the date. Gave up altogether and replaced it with Coke. And that brings me on to my watch. Those of you who have seen my American expeditions will know that I mentioned that it was just a nice gesture because I'm always having a Coke on my videos. It keeps me going. A Coke and a dry sausage for long distance traveling. It keeps me going. I just sip the Coke and eat dried sausage and it keeps me going. And I'd mentioned this, and people see it in my video, and when I was in the United States in 2015, I think it was it 14, whatever, 15, somebody brought me a Coke, just said, here's a Coke, you thought you'd need this, and it was a nice gesture. Following year, 5 different people brought me Cokes because I'd mentioned it. And this last time I said that we're going to move on from Coke and we're going to move on to Rolex watches. Now, I have a lot of people commenting about my watch, and they're obviously watch fans. They're interested in watches. This is a genuine Rolex Submariner Oyster date. I bought it when I was 21, and my co-workers at the first company and at the time I'd just become a junior editor, and I didn't have a watch. And they'd moan at me because I'd be late and that kind of stuff. And I'd get moaned, buy yourself. My boss eventually said to me, Andrew, buy yourself a watch. No, he was starting to get a little bit ticked off. Andrew, a watch. Yes, sir. So I went and bought a Rolex. And then I remember him. I said, sir, his name is Mark. Mark, yes, I bought a watch. Let me see. I remember him saying, give it to me. So I took it off my wrist, gave it to him. And he said, he went around the office saying, I told him to buy a watch and he bought a Rolex. Oh dear. So anyway, I've had it on my wrist ever since. And it still keeps very good time. 35... We're 2017, 36 years later. 36 years. Strap broke, a pin in the strap broke once, and I had it replaced, and they polished it up and it came back looking like new. And that's where it comes from, and I've still got it on my wrist. And even through the hardest financial times, I never thought about selling it. Between the time that we thought about moving out of South Africa, as the business in South Africa just wasn't working, we went through some pretty tough financial times. And in fact, if I look back, and this is personal information, but oh well, from 2012, including 2012, 13 and 14, for 3 years, I'd say for 3 years we were spending more than we were earning for 3 whole years, and that meant selling assets, and I sold my beautiful motor glider. I actually sold it to somebody in Australia who lives in Brisbane. Oh, I'd love to get my hands on that again. Magnificent machine. It really was just, and I had, I did about 300 or 400 hours in that aeroplane. I kept it for about 4 years, and about 100 hours a year. And I did cross-country flying, I did lots of soaring. It was a magnificent aeroplane. And I would love to get back into, that was my passion of flying. But my flying actually started when I was 25, and I started flying gliders, pure sailplanes, and I got my wings, and I got some certificates for distance and height, and but I loved the idea of motor gliding, and I actually owned a motor glider before this one. Owned a motor glider in South Africa. It was called the Grob 109B. And just fell in love with motor gliders because it is a cruising airplane. You can travel. I mean, that thing is faster than the Cessna 172 in the cruise by quite a lot, and use very little fuel. And of course, I would some of my cross country flights, if the weather was suitable, I'd cut the engine, turn it off, and glide, and actually do long distance gliding flights in it. Fantastic thing. Absolutely loved it. So, sold a house, sold four-wheel drives, and in fact when we left South Africa, the green Land Cruiser Troopie was actually still owned by Toyota South Africa. Now that vehicle on its own was an interesting story, and perhaps that's where I should come in now. I got it in 2011. I went to Toyota was releasing it in South Africa, and I went to them and said, I'd always wanted a Troopcarrier. For as long as I can remember, I would take pictures of Troopies because it's such a great overland platform. And when they decided to bring them out in South Africa, I got one of the 2 press vehicles that came in. They came into the country, they were used for homologation, testing and things like that. I was given one of them. And it was handed over to me with the agreement that I would buy it after 2 years. I would do major conversions to it. I would purchase it after 2 years, cost less depreciation. So I would get it for a good price after 2 years of use. So I sold my 105. Very sad to get rid of my 105. I loved my 105. I thought it was a fantastic truck. And developed what is now called the Hercules roof conversion for the Troopcarrier, and actually designed it, and then worked with Alucab, and then we co-designed it together, and it's a great product, and I will be fitting that onto this baby here in Australia. And so that vehicle was the test bed for a whole lot of products, but that was the main one. And when I left South Africa, it stayed in South Africa when I went to the UK, because I didn't own it yet, because they had staff changes at Toyota South Africa, and I couldn't conclude that 2-year deal. And it actually went on to 3.5 years. And eventually when I went back to South Africa in 2015 and said, okay, I'm ready to settle up now, they just handed me the keys and they said, thank you so much for what you've done. You've done a wonderful job. We're very, very happy with it. Actually, we're going to carry the cost. And they handed me the keys. And I like to boast about that because it was very good for me at the time that I was living in England, and that there was a certain vindication, I suppose, that my work was valuable to the sponsors, where they said, there's the key, you don't have to, that's it, deal done. I needed that because, to be honest with you, England was an awful time. And in fact, I would say 2012, last year in South Africa, 2013, and those 2 years, and 2014 too, probably, amongst the worst years of my life. Difficulty. My father passed away in 2012. We were very close, as close as, I suppose, as close as a father and son can be. We used to spend a lot of time. I used to go up to Johannesburg because I lived in Cape Town. He was in Johannesburg. I used to go up to Johannesburg 5 or 6 times a year, but I'd always spend an extra 2 or 3 days just to spend some time with him. So he passed away then. That was tough. Moved to England. That was very tough because I'd lost everything. Not only had I lost my aeroplane, I'd lost my one daughter decided to stay in South Africa, so the family was breaking up, and I arrived in England, and it was awful. It was really awful, and I'd been made certain promises by some people living in England who were very influential, or appeared to be very influential, and those people, I suppose, I'm not blaming them, but things that they said and things that they promised to do for me and things did influence my decision to go to the UK as opposed to Australia. I'm an Australian citizen. My mother was born north of Sydney, and I've been an Australian citizen since 2007. So getting the family here actually would have been a lot easier than going to the UK. UK wouldn't let my wife in. They just said no. Even though I'm born in England and British citizen, and I have children and married to her for 20 plus years, no, you can't come in to England. They were that mean about it. And without me putting down an enormous amount of money to prove that I can look after her. She did get in because her father's father was born in the UK, so she went in on an ancestral visa. It was very tough. But we went there to England partly based on the promises of people, and they let me down horribly. But that's okay, because what I learnt in England was that to give my productions and films away on YouTube was actually the way to go, and that was the most difficult possible thing that I could have learnt, is that you need to give stuff away to earn money from it. And I could never have understood that from South Africa. I still find it difficult to explain to people, how do you make money? I give my stuff away. Really? Yeah. That's why I now publish my videos on YouTube. Now, if you want to pay for my videos, you can, and then you get them all nicely there, and you can download them, put them on your iPad, and then da-da-da-da. Sure, you pay for them. You're paying for content. If you want to do that, you can do that too. Because of course on YouTube there's just a couple of playlists and hundreds of videos, and it's difficult to navigate your way through. On the website it's all very straightforward, hundreds of videos, and there they are, and you can download them and keep them. So it's a different product. But you don't have to. If you want to enjoy the videos, just watch YouTube. I didn't understand that concept. And then Patreon came along, and it was, wow. Wow. These people they get it for free, and yet they want to pay for it because they want to be part of it. I could never have learnt that. I don't even think I could have learnt that here in Australia. And so if I look back on that awful time in England and that grey gloom and grumpy Englishman, I'm English, and gee, you can get, if you're looking for grumpy, if you want something done badly, get an Englishman to do it. Get a blue-collar English worker to do it, union man to do it. You'll get it done really badly. It's my experience. But then again, we met some interesting people in England, and but I didn't make any friends. Actually, I made one friend, but he was a fan of my videos. England was a tough time, but very, very valuable. And so now I'm here as a result, and running this and operating this business as a result of that tough time. And I think tough times are not just a part of life, but they are absolutely vital to success. They are vital, and they're a necessary thing and part of life. So here's something philosophical. If you're going through a tough time, time is the big cure-all. Time. You just got to push through, because you never know what's over the hill. And actually, sometimes don't try and look too far. Just focus on what's happening now. Look ahead. Push. And I suppose Gunnar and I both did that. We just put our heads down, realizing that this wasn't full, that everything changes. One thing in life is that it's absolutely absolutely sure and is guaranteed that whatever's happening now is not going to stay that way. Change is inevitable. And even now, while I'm very conscious now of having an amazing time building a truck in Australia, and I've got this amazing trip, I'm doing this thing in the United States, northwest frontier, and then I've been invited to Iceland, and then I've got the Canning Stock in 3-4 months time. Canning Stock route, wow. And then next year I've got this Africa thing planned, and I'm so enjoying my work. And those little comments that people leave on my channel saying, you inspire us. Do you know how much those comments inspire me? Somebody says I changed the logo, 4X Overland, 4-wheel drive expedition inspiration. And I got that, and I changed it from roads less traveled, because roads less traveled I think has become a cliche. I was one of those people that perpetuated that and made it become I was using it and it's overused. And I changed it to the word inspiration, because if I get inspiration from anything, it's somebody commenting on one of my videos that they were inspired. And that inspires me to do more and push the boundaries. And the last thing I want to say is that, apart from thank you to the Patreon guys for supporting my work, you are what makes it different. I want to thank a major sponsor that's come along. We've had a long relationship. This is BF Goodrich Tires. We've had a long relationship, and I went to them and basically said, I think it's time we did a little bit more than you just give me tires. And they said, we agree completely. We agree. And it was really great. And I was in Dubai and I met with one of their senior marketing people. What a fascinating French lady. Just really interesting. We clicked immediately. I liked her immediately. And she was telling me about things about the tire industry, things about the BF Goodrich brand that I didn't know, and it was really, really good. And basically they agreed it was more than just tires now. It was something else. So there is financial help coming from them, which means I can expand our horizons. I can do amazing things. So they are a major contributor. And it didn't come easy. It came after since 2009, since I first used their tires. And a relationship with not just a product, then started to getting to know them at BF Goodrich. So a relationship with the product that became a relationship with people. So if you're watching this, thank you. It's appreciated. I'm now going to make some mud flaps for this truck. Much later the same day, and there it is. There's my new mud flap, and that is what I'm making. So that was the original one. That's the original. It's very flimsy, and that is made out of a conveyor belt type of material that I got from a local rubber shop. And there it is there. It's about 5% larger, and it's much, much stronger. And when the air hits it, the trouble is with these very thin ones, they tend to bend a lot when the air hits them, and they curl up. These will actually stay. They're much heavier and protect against larger rocks. And I've had fun today making them. Hope you've enjoyed my little trip down memory lane, and thank you for watching.